Welcome to Bytes and Bytes Riveting Rivets event. I wanted to go over a little how-to video for those of you that this will be your first time using power tools. So we're going to go over everything from the beginning so that everyone can be safe for this. First thing, make sure you get yourself a pair of safety glasses that cover around your eyes. If you have prescription eyewear, you'll need to either put these over those or find a way to cover the sides of your eyewear. Next thing, the release. So you can't touch anything until you've signed this release that basically states you understand the dangers and you assume the responsibilities for that. So make sure you sign the release. Now, once all the safety is out of the way, let's look at the different tools you'll need. You don't need them all at once, but at some point you'll need to source them, which we supply. This is the end goal. So this is our little spinning keychain that you're gonna make. And to do that, you'll need a baggie. So pick the baggie of parts with your favorite color. Then find yourself some sandpaper at some point. You'll need pliers to lock the actual spinny part, so the pliers will operate that little nut there, or the actual wrench. You'll need a hand screwdriver, Phillips, or the plus on the end, and that is what you're going to use to install the screws. You'll need some sort of vise that will allow you to actually grab the keychain. So this is the profile of how the keychain will fit in there. There's going to be two kinds of vices for you to understand. This is your standard vise that you can basically spin like that and then finish the tightness by going sideways and sideways on that. You really don't need to tighten any of these hard, right? You just have to snug them so that they hold your keychain while you work on it. The other one, which is a little different, and this is the one that most people are going to struggle with, is a cam operated vise. And so this is the cam. There is nothing to screw on or tighten. So this gets slid into place and then you just push that down a little bit to lock it. You'll notice that if you come in too tight, it won't come down. So you do that and then that's locked into place. Any of these vices that our 3D print is not designed to perfectly fit is supplied with spacers. So I've pushed this lever up so I can get at things, and you'll notice that we have a little spacer on the bottom and spacer to fill these little guides on top. And then that will allow this to sit in and be covered, perfect support. And so when you want to work on this one, remember, you push it in here till it's kind of tight, and then you pull that cam down, and then that actually holds it really tight. So those are the two different vices. You're gonna need a rivet gun. And so the rivet, let me loosen this guy. This is the namesake of our event, but you actually get to install a pop rivet. And so you're gonna do that with our rivet gun there. And then you have your option of different drills. And I wanna go through the drills for a minute. This is your standard drill with the chuck. And so this is what we'd prefer you use the drill bit with. This drill bit is an 1/8 inch. So do not drill parts of the keychain that you're gonna cut threads in. So this is threaded, and this is threaded. So do not drill that with the drill bit that's provided. You do wanna drill for the rivet. That is the correct size for the rivet. And so therefore use that. And that'll allow the rivet to go in nice and easy. For the threading portion, you'll want to use this threaded bit. And you'll notice it has a little bit of a drill bit at the front and then thread teeth to cut your threads and then a countersink. But I'm going to say this a couple times. Do not go all the way to the countersink. The actual hardware, you'll notice, is not countersunk. It sits flush. So use this sparingly. Once you easily get through the threads, don't keep going, or you're gonna make it really wide at the top, which we'll discuss here in a minute. For the drills, a couple things you need to understand when you're operating a drill. Please put it on the driver setting, and that driver enables the clutch. And the clutch prevents you from going too hard on the actual chuck here. And so you want to turn this thing down. And so lower numbers to start. And when this thing starts making a noise, the brrr, because it's slipping, you can add numbers, but if it's too strong, you'll end up breaking bits, especially these guys. So start light with this clutch. Make sure you're in driver mode, not drill mode or hammer mode, but the driver mode. The drill mode and the hammer mode, this clutch doesn't work. So put it together, crank it down really low, and then hold this and make sure that it slips on that clutch. The other thing you'll need to know with cordless tools is down here, they have a direction. So you'll notice it goes to, if you push it all the way, so I'm pushing it all the way on the other side, and then that basically will choose the direction. If you want to lock it, you put it in the middle. So you'll see that that sticks out a little bit on that side, sticks out a little bit on that side, and then you'll notice it's locked. Now, this side, so let me use it with my right hand like most people will be doing. If you're left-handed, it's going to be opposite. But with my right hand, if I push in with my index finger, this is tightening or drilling. So you'll notice the way the clock spins, that's clockwise turning. That's using the index finger on the drill. If you use your thumb with your right hand, it's going to go backwards. So you'll notice now it's going counterclockwise, and it will not drill and it will not cut threads. And if you're running screws, it'll be backing them out backwards. But we aren't running screws with any power. We're running screws with this screwdriver. So make sure you do not run screws with this. And with this drill style, you're only using a drill bit. The next interesting bit or power system is this. It's called an impact driver. And so this one's gonna make noise as it ratchets or impacts. And we found that this works best for when we're gonna try and cut threads. Cutting threads with a drill, if you don't know what you're doing, you'll typically break this tap. And if you break the tap within your piece of keychain, you might be stuck, not being able to finish. But this one has the same system. So thumb to run reverse, index finger to run forward. When you're cutting threads, you want to start with the index finger in. It'll spin like normal, but if it stops and it's impacting and it's not going in the way you want, you can always push the thumb and then squeeze the trigger and basically back out. So that's the way this works. If you have any apprehension with either of these, please talk to a monitor. Make sure you get the help you need. Here's another option that will be at the workshop. And so this is an older version. It has the option of a clutch. It can also be impact, but it has a tiny battery so it doesn't go really fast. So this shows you how nice and slow. So for new power tool users, I would suggest using something like this Bosch because it doesn't have a huge battery like that one. And it's very friendly for those that are just learning. Everything you do in here, as soon as you have your part in your vise, you will always want to make sure, either tapping or drilling, that you keep that drill perfectly vertical. And so look around both sides of where you're working to make sure that you're going perfectly vertical into your workpiece. If you're not going perfectly vertical, the hardware is going to fit weird. You'll notice that those heads go nice and flush on all the different parts, and that's because the person who built this made double sure that those drills and taps were perfectly vertical. Okay, so that's the drills. That's the safety rundown on the drills. You're also going to want to get some sandpaper because you want to sand the freshly cut parts, and you're going to want cutting oil. And so the cutting oil is what you're going to use on this tapping bit to make sure that it can easily cut through the aluminum. All right, let's get started. Make sure that you have all of these parts in your goodie bag. The aluminum backing plate, it's got a little side bore that mounts with the front plate. So you'll notice that those two will fit together to form a hole in the side. Make sure that you don't have it upside down. That makes it non-operational. Have a rivet. It's going to go through the bottom. You also have a backing rivet washer here. So those two are going to work together. You have your little spinny gear here. It's going to go in the middle. You have one long bolt, 6x32. And with that, you're going to have a backing nut here that locks it and a washer. So we got those. And then we're going to want two shorter 6x32s, and those are going to go up here on the shoulders of our keychain. All right. You can choose to either put spacer block in there or just put it in the 3D printed material. There's plenty of clearance underneath and you can drill through. It's up to you. But we've taken our tapping kit. Let me move this guy over. We're going to brush on a little bit of cutting oil on the start of the threads. Now we're going to make sure this side's in so that we're cutting, that's rotating clockwise. Then when we put it in, we want to make double sure that it's vertical both in this plane and this plane. Once you start drilling, do not move this side to side at all. You'll break the bit. And don't push down hard. Like the teeth in this threading system will pull themselves down when they need to, so you don't need to push down hard. Your challenge is to go nice and slow and just hold it vertical. So just starting it like that, and there we go. First one is threaded, so then we need to pop that in reverse, come back out, and then we want to get our brush and add more cutting oil. And then we want to do the next one here in one of our shoulders. So again, staying vertical. Oops, got to run it the right direction. So there we go. We cut threads down. You'll notice I go halfway into the threads where it's spinning nice and easy. And then I come back out. And I'm lightly picking up as I come back out. So again, we're going to put on a little bit more cutting oil at the start of those threads. And we have our last threading to do, so I'm going to go pushed here to go forward. Again, I'm making sure that I'm perfectly vertical in both planes. And I'm going to let it slowly grab and go down as I slowly turn it. And there we go. I can feel it nice and easily going down. So reverse it. And then come out. And so that's the end of this tapping system. Next, so we're going to grab our other drill bit that has our drill bit for the rivet. It's not 1/8 inch though. I think it's like, what would that be? 532, 332. So going to make sure that this one gets drilled. Again, this one's pushed in on that side. So we're going to be going clockwise. And we're going to drill down through there. You'll notice that spins nice and slow, because if you have the option on a drill, go to the lower number, and that allows it to go nice and slow. Again, we're in this driver and we've got the clutch turned way down. So if I wanted to test this, I could hold it and you see that it just sits there and pops. If it was doing that and I wanted it to go through, I could actually turn this up a bit. Right now it's on number 3. I could spin that up. So make sure you start low as possible or we'll be breaking a bunch of these. All right, so now that that's done, I'm going to loosen up our jig. Now we can pull this out. So now we can work on the plastic piece. So here's our plastic piece. We're going to put that into our jig. Sorry, bumping the camera here. Let me move our camera a little bit. There we go. Tightening that a little bit snug. Don't go crazy. If you tighten this too much, you'll break right there because that's thin. The top of this, we want mainly to make sure that this goes through the bottom for our rivet. So make sure it's nice and vertical. Drill that one out nice. And then if you want, you can also make sure these go through nicely as well. And so those are going to be your screw holes. There we go. And so that is pretty much most of our machining. So we can pop this guy out of our vise jaws. We can move our vise jaws. So now we can start putting this thing together. So we've got our backing plate, we've got our front plate, we've got our spinner, bring in all of our hardware. So now you can take your pick. The other thing you might want to do before assembly is you have the option of sandpaper. If you've got clear, I wouldn't sand it unless you want the back to be smoky. So the back is this side because I can't read the lettering. But you could sand the back if you wanted to make it smoky. Sand the sides, knock the burrs off. You know, the laser might have a little bit of burrs on there, but it's totally up to you. So you could do that. The other thing you could do is this aluminum sometimes has some wear on it. It might have the alloy stamped in it, might have some oxide. So you can lay your sandpaper down and then you can kind of figure out the direction that it's already going in, and you could sand that as well. So that gives it a nice shiny surface. We could do the front. The water jet that cut this out leaves a little burr, so if you wanted to, you could knock the burr down. You know, this is going to be in your pocket as a keychain. So once that's all sanded, we're now ready to install everything. So again, make sure you can read the lettering for the clear one. The green and the brown, pretty obvious. The other thing you could do is you could actually modify this port. And so if you had a way, you could change the end of this, because that air power is what's going to dictate how fast this moves. So totally a side option, but you would have to figure out a way to safely clamp this and do some drilling if you wanted to modify that. But now we want our screwdriver. We want our 2 short screws. So short one goes in there. You don't want to go crazy on this just until it starts snugging up, or you'll break it. You'll break the plastic. You'll notice if you pick the right size because it's almost flush on the back. So that's why we're using the short screws here on the shoulders. So again, make sure you don't over tighten these, just snug it, or you'll break your plastic. Broken plastic, and we might not have enough for everybody to do again. So the spinner, here's your spinner. Make sure that the laser etching points out. I mean, you could do into, either way, up to you. You're gonna have the bolt on the outside. You're then gonna have a washer. I like to leave the smooth part of the washer because it's punched, so the backside will have a little bit of a burr. I like the burr to aim down, smooth side to aim into the spinner, but totally change it up if you want. Then line it up with your hole in the middle. Thread that in, but this is where your actual adjustments will dictate if you win or lose the competition. So you want to make sure that's really free spinning, but not so free spinning that it actually shimmies. And then once you like that adjustment, you can actually use the provided nut and you can tighten that down, and you can use either the wrench or the pliers. Wrenches are what mechanics use, so I'm going to use that. If you're having issues with when you tighten this, it loosens that. You can do them both together. So you can have the wrench in the back and use the screwdriver in the front. And so that gets us to the rivet. So for the rivet, you'll notice this didn't line up beautifully in the hole. So what we can do is we can get our drill back out here. So this is the setup here. If you're feeling safe, you could do the drilling like this, but do not drill into your hand. Like, do not hold it like this and drill in. If you feel safe, that's on your caveat, you could do this and just make sure that works. You'll notice nothing is behind the drill bit that could cause injury. If you do not feel safe doing that, get your vise, get that spacer, and then put this into the jaws. Challenge though is getting the spacer to stay in the middle. Tightening the jaws, and then that way you can safely drill out that drill to make sure it's nice and clean for your rivet. So now that that's ready, we'll open up our jaws, get rid of our spacer. So this is your next challenge. So we have our keychain, we have our rivet with the backing washer, and now we're going to use the rivet gun. So let me zoom out. The way the rivet gun is going to work is you're going to push this onto the rivet. Make sure you have the right sized orifice for that. It's going to grab that and be ready to pop it. So what you can do is you can put, zoom back in. You can put that on. So that's ready to go there. But then you also want to put this backing washer on there. Again, I like to put the burr aiming in and then the smooth side aiming out. So you want to basically hold this while squeezing this. And it's a 3 squeeze process. So I'm going to let it, so it starts to grab, and I'm going to squeeze that down. Then you'll notice it grabbed the washer, but that's it. So then I can let it back open, push it back in, and go for the second squeeze. So if you need leverage, go all the way out there. And then you'll notice it's going to pop. But then you have to do a third squeeze to actually yank that stem out. And there you go. This opens up, the stem falls out, and now you have a beautiful pop rivet that has a backing washer to make it really strong. Last thing you need to do is put on the ring. So use fingernails or a flat screwdriver, catch it on the hole like that, rotate, and boom, you have your own spinning keychain. Next thing, go pick out some swag that you want to put with this. We have levels, standard and Phillips screwdrivers, and all kinds of other little gizmos you can throw on with this. But there you have it. Hopefully you had a great time.